Hey everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective here from Movie Monday. Today, I'm gonna jump into Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho, I caught it on Amazon. I rented it for $20, had it for like 48 hours or whatever their rental deal is. Great, loved every second of this movie. It stars Thomasin McKenzie as Eloise. It stars Anna Taylor-Joy as Sandy. It stars Michael Agiao as John. Rita Tushingham as Peggy slash Gran. We've got Matt Smith as Jack. We have Terrence Stamp as the silver-haired gentleman. And then finally, we have Dame Diana Rigg as Miss Collins, and this is her final role. Actually, even before the movie starts, right after they do like produced by and production by whatever, after they do those title cards, it says for Diana before the actual movie like goes in, and you see like it's the first real frame of the movie that you see is for that. So I thought that was very nice because she does do a really great job in her final role here. Um, Excuse me. Um, this movie's really great. Been a huge fan of Edgar Wright since, let's see, I saw Shaun of the Dead first on home video. I didn't see it in theaters, but then I've seen every single one of his movies in theaters since, or at least like opening weekend. This one being the exception, along with Shaun of the Dead, because I've watched this one on Amazon. I rented it. Beside the point, let's jump in here. This movie was really good. I really loved it. This movie opens with a really awesome musical-esque kind of number, and it was very reminiscent of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, with the opening of Scott's band, like having band practice, and they're all playing, and then like the sounds kind of start getting animated, shooting out of the guitars, and then there's like a long draw back from the band and stuff. Like it's really great because we get basically Elle dancing in her doorway as like silhouetted out, and then we get a long pull from that doorway in, and she's clearly like entering her room right there, and it's really great. It just really reminded me of Scott Pilgrim, and it was a really interesting way to introduce our character, having it set like to this very musical-esque kind of opening number. It was really great. Then we find out that Elle wants to be a famous fashion designer. She's talking to herself in the mirror about like different famous names she'll go by, or like what people will like refer to her stuff as. And she makes an ET joke, like, "What are you wearing, ET?" And she even does the point. It's great. Thank you, Edgar Wright. I love that you did that. Or maybe that was Krysty Wilson-Cairns joke. I don't know, but either one of you two, love you guys for doing that because that was hilarious. And then we get a quick flash of like her doing that. We get a quick flash of a woman like standing in the mirror basically behind her, and we look over and to where like you would see somebody walking in through the door, and nobody's there. And Elle then goes downstairs, talks to her gram. She's getting ready to leave for fashion design school. Her gram is being very encouraging, like, "I'm so proud that you're doing this, but I want to make sure that you can handle it. I want because your mother wasn't able to, so I want to make sure that you feel at least supported if you start feeling overwhelmed. Like, I'm here. I can help you. Like, it's okay. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a bad thing to ask for help if you get overwhelmed or anything like that." So, like her Graham's trying to be really good and supportive to her, granddaughter, like going on to the next like step of her life, like going to fashion design school so that she can eventually, put out a line or have a fashion show or whatever it is that, Elle wants to do, or whatever it is that, people go to fashion design school want to do with their lives afterwards. And then we hear Gran talking, in her Like, you know, I want to make sure you're okay. I want to make sure you feel like supported and all that, because you feel and you see things. And then that like really stuck out to me because we saw the woman in the mirror who really wasn't there. Um, so is that woman in the mirror? We find out the woman in the mirror is Elle's mother. So it's like, oh, okay, I see my mom in the mirror every once in a while. I mean, everybody, I guess, at some point or another can say that they have a similar feeling to a lost one, or to, you know, a family member who's no longer with us or with them. Um, then we have Elle leaving her Graham's house. She has a really creepy car ride. Like, that dude was a real creep to her. She like even gets out of the cab. Like, good job. She gets out of the cab because she felt really weird and uncomfortable, and then that cabbie was like waiting for her for a few minutes, and then eventually like that cab took off. Like, yeah, that was really weird. And then she meets her. So she gets out of the cab, she goes to the mart, she picks up a can of Coke, and in picking up this can of Coke at the supermarket here, we get a like almost the exact same shot from Shaun of the Dead that we got like twice, the two times that we see Sean go to in Shaun of the Dead. Simon Pegg's character Sean go to the market and pick up a can of Coke and then pick up a can of Diet Coke. um, and how he just puts it down. Well, they do another shot that's very similar to that in here, and that really, I really love that, because I was like, oh, that's like Shaun of the Dead. That's great. And to be fair, this whole movie is really littered with, like, if you've been a fan of Edgar Wright, of like all of the little things that he's kind of been doing and like having very similar things throughout, like the different songs and music, that like the musical songs, not the score, play like very specific roles, or at least like their beats and like the tempo and stuff play very specific roles to the different emotional scenes that are going on, or not even just emotional, like interpersonal, but all the scenes that they're in. Like, it's very specific that they choose certain songs for certain things. It's very much so like Baby Driver. If you've seen Edgar Wright's movie Baby Driver, he uses the songs and stuff in the exact same way in that movie that I'm trying to explain, that I'm trying to say about in this movie. And it's all really, really great. He is, like, Edgar Wright's a top tier filmmaker in my opinion. I love him. He does a really great job with all of this stuff. Um, Elle meets her roommates. After going to the market, she puts her name on a can of Coke. She meets her roommate, Jocasta. They talk about losing their mothers early. Jocasta lost her mother at 15. Elle lost her mother at 7. And then they meet the floor mates. They find out that, on top of Elle losing her mother at 7, that her mother committed suicide, which is really terrible and sad. That's an awful thing to go through. And if you're feeling sad about anything, please talk to somebody. Please reach out to somebody. But in this movie, it's like, I don't know, they have this weird little bond over like talking about their like upbringings, their hardships or whatever, that help them like funnel it all into their like design and like their art, and like, they try and use it to create, to be able to, work through it, which is really great. That's really awesome that you can find a way to do that and have those kind of things in your life to work through that like pain and that trauma and stuff. So it was really nice that they touched on this. Then they all decide to go out to the bar. Um, Even though they're all like, "Wait, don't we have class and stuff tomorrow?" Don't worry about it. It's the first week. It doesn't matter. Like, it'll be okay. I totally remember that. Remember those those from college as well. So they go to the bar. She meets. We get introduced to John again, who she had met earlier. He offers to help her with her luggage, and she doesn't. She doesn't accept his help. John again offers to buy her a drink. Points like, at his, like, "Do you want one?" Elle points to hers. She's already got one. Elle goes to the bathroom. Jocasta and her and the other floor mates decide to start, or not decide to, but go and do coke in the stall next to Elle. They all leave the bar. Elle sees Terrence Stamp leave and enter another bar. Like comes onto the street and then he enters a bar, and it's a really weird scene because she's kind of like mesmerized by this guy at first, and like she's like just hanging out by like a phone booth or whatever, um, and she once she sees Terrence Stamp go into the bar, again it's kind of weird. It's like a weird flowy kind of like motion of a scene and stuff of like her and then seeing Terrence Stamp walk by, and then she just goes. Then she just goes home. She's laying in bed, listening to her Beats headphones, listening to music, going to bed, and her roommate Jocasta throws open the door that hits her bed and like startles Elle. Jocasta and this boy start having sex on Jocasta's room or on Jocasta's bed. Elle just bundles up her um, blankets and stuff and goes down to the communal like little like room where people were eating and drinking and had uh, the fridge. Then this is where Al officially is introduced to John. He introduces himself as John. He is also drinking Elle's can of Coke that she purchased earlier. She was like, just have it, just have it. And then she falls asleep on that couch in that little living area, oversleeping for class. It is a. Oh, poor girl. So she's late to class. She's all bent out of shape. After she leaves class, she sees an ad on like a bulletin board, like with all kinds of like, join this group, join that group, or whatever. She also sees an ad for a room available to rent, and so she goes and inquires about the room. This is where we're introduced to Dame Diane Rigg as Miss Collins, and Miss Collins is willing to rent the room to her, no problem. She says like, I know I asked for a lot for a security deposit, 2 months worth of rent for it, but I have had a lot of people just up and leave in the middle of the night, and I need to be able to protect myself for when I'm not renting, or like for the time that it takes, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, well, isn't this kind of like a lot for you? Why wouldn't you just sell this place? Like, and Miss Collins is like, no, I can't sell it. There's too many memories, and besides, like, I got it. I was like, how'd you even get this for yourself as like owning it? She's like, I bought it off the original owner for pennies, way back when, and it's been, I've owned it ever since. And so then it's all just really interesting. Like that whole conversation, it was all kind of like a little weird. Um, um, and the weird, and to be fair, it didn't get weird until I heard this. Miss Collins is showing Elle the room, and she sees a phone, and she's like, oh, don't get too excited about the phone, it only makes emergency calls. Kind of weird. Then she also tells her the other rule, that there is no men after 8 p.m. Fine, whatever. um, and it's the funniest part though is that Miss Collins, Diane Rigg, Dame Diana Rigg, talks about people just up and leaving in the middle of the night. And Elle says, I won't do that. I am not that kind of person. You don't have to worry about that from me. And she literally does it to Jocasta. As soon as we end that conversation there, we see her packing up her stuff from her college dorm and just booking it. And going back to Miss Collins, she sets up like all of her stuff in there and seems to be having a good time. And she goes to bed. And this is where the story kind of like really almost begins to kick off, because she has her first night of dreams here. and she dreams of the 1960s. Now, it could be because she's listening to that old kind of like 50s, 60s kind of music, and like that's just like what you do. You listen to that kind of music, you dream about like maybe that kind of time, from like obviously stories from her gram telling her about that time and like all of that. So it's all really interesting. But she goes to the 1960s. This is where we're introduced to Anna Taylor Joy as Sandy. We are introduced to the Cafe de Paris, and we see Anna Taylor Joy just basically being outside of Cafe de Paris. She's walking down, like basically walking in from the off the street, and she is sorry. She's walking in off the street, going down a hallway. We see a really great, like this whole. If there's one really great overall paintbrush comment I can say about this movie, is that the cinematography and the shots that they picked for it are fantastic. It's a really great movie in that sense. It's really shot amazingly. So they come down the staircase, and you see Anna Taylor Joy actually on the staircase, but in the reflection of the mirrors going with each stair, you see Elle in there. Thomasin McKenzie's character is Elle in like her gray t-shirt and gray sweatpants or whatever. She went to bed, whatever. And we see her come down. It's beautiful shots. Like, it's so good. We see a really great like dance number. We get introduced to Matt Smith's Jack, and we get like this dance scene is really great. Like the dancing scenes, there's another one later on. It's oh man, the choreography for it is just out of this world. It's so good. It's so well crafted. And then we get we get a little bit of an adventure with Sandy and Jack. They like Jack gets into a fight, punches a guy. Sandy and Jack have like run through the bar, make out and hide in a phone booth, then run, and then Sandy asks Jack to take her home. And they have a kid that they make out in the phone booth, and they have a kiss goodnight, and that's what it is. As soon as Sandy walks into her like apartment, Elle wakes up, but she's really reinvigorated. Like she had kind of a rough day, didn't necessarily like her roommate or anything like that, so she went out obviously to go get an apartment, and that's exactly what she did. And I would say this is basically the end of Act 1 and the start of Act 2 here, after this first night of dreams. Back at school, she's talking with John, who's like looking at like her drawing, because as of right now, nobody's really necessarily put up a whole bunch of fabric on like models yet. They're kind of drawing out what they want their look to be. Teacher mentions that using like material from the 1960s can be a little funny, but you have a great design here, so I'd really like you to like continue looking through it. So that was really good. She's getting some encouragement. Jack says the same thing, or I'm sorry, John says the same thing to her, that it's almost like a self-portrait of yourself, but to the audience, or at least to me, I thought it really looked more so like Anna Taylor Joy than it did Thomasin McKenzie in the drawing that Elle's doing. Jocasta comes over, because now Jocasta is the person that if the center of attention isn't on her, then she's gonna do the best to embarrass the person that the attention is on, so that people can like kind of recognize her again. She's not really a good person. She's pretty mean. But I wouldn't say she's a villain. She's just mean. Jocasta. But Jocasta points out a hickey on Elle's neck, which is interesting because we see Jack kissing Sandy on the neck in that like same area from the night before dream. And so that's like really weird. It's like, whoa, is the stuff that happens in the dream now like Like, are we getting a mixture of dream and reality here? What's going on? Um, because, like, to be fair, Elle didn't make out with anybody else that night. So there's nobody else, like, early in the night that she did make out with that she could have, that, like, we didn't see or anything. The only thing we saw happen in that way that could explain it is that she and Sandy are sharing a life, and that is something that was left over. A lot of questions, but good stuff, man. I'm into it. Um, so then John, uh, like I said, it was weird because of the hickey thing in the neck. John gives Elle a can of Coke and then asks about, plans. Do you have any plans? Like, he's shooting a shot. He's trying to, show that he's interested in her. Like, do you want to go on a date? Do you want to go hang out? Let's do something. And she's like, actually, I can't tonight. I already have some plans. And we know as the audience she doesn't. So what plans do you have, lady? And by lady, I mean Elle. What plans do you have? Clearly, she just wants to run home. She runs home and she goes to bed. That's exactly what she does. She wants to go see Sandy again and see this like glitzy life of the 1960s that Elle so desperately like kind of wants now that we're kind of like seeing from that, and it's great. We have Sandy and Jack going to the Rialto, and then we get like going to the Rialto for Sandy's audition, and Anna Taylor Joy. I double checked this before I turned on the cameras and everything, but Anna Taylor Joy in the movie sings Downtown, and I needed to double check and make sure that that was actually Anna Taylor Joy singing it, and it is mind-blowingly great. If there is one reason for everybody to see this movie, it's to see how incredible Anna Taylor Joy sings Downtown. It's insane. Like Anna Taylor Joy, you've got a set of pipes on you. Amazing. Amazing. Like, it is one of the biggest takeaways from it that like I still think about now, like how incredible it was. Um, mm, so good. There's actually a video, I think Anna Taylor Joy put up a video of like of a session of her recording like the song in like a studio booth along with like the bits that like were in the movie because she obviously recorded the whole song. um I'm sure, or maybe not, but either way, like, and it's awesome. Go check that out. I think it's on Instagram, could be on Twitter too. But yeah, Anna Taylor Joy put that out there. Now we get from this, the guy at the Rialto that she's auditioning for is like, she's got a set of pipes, that's great. She can sing. Can she? What else can she do, basically? And then like Jack and Sandy are like clearly now like manager love interest people. And then Elle wakes up after this audition, and like Jack officially being the manager. Elle wakes up as actually Jack and Sandy seem to be having sex for the first time. Um, the morning after her dream, after the audition dream, Elle changes her hair to look exactly like Sandy, like dyes it and styles it. She goes out, she buys a new like white leather coat similar to what we saw Anna Taylor Joy wearing on her way to the Rialto, and Elle actually walks out of the coat store because it's a vintage like thrift store, and she walks out of it because she catches a sign of the Rialto of where Sandy was. And that was also really weird because now it's like, whoa, we have a hickey from the dream, but I guess, like a Rialto landmark, it was clearly like a bar, club, theater, so like that still being around from the 1960s to now makes sense. A hickey, though, on a different person showing up on Elle is very less explained. So yeah, I have questions about that. Um, and then we get so Elle changes her hair. She gets the coat. She sees the Rialto in real life. She gets a job at a pub, the Toucan, and it is also the same pub that we saw the Terrence Stamp, the silver haired gentleman, walk into earlier. And Terrence Stamp, asks Elle when she's bartending, like, hey, do I know you? Because I know all the girls around here. And it's really creepy on how he says it, especially with like how she had that creepy car ride with the cab ride earlier. He was like, "Oh, I'll know all of you girls over there shortly." Um, it was all kind of creepy, kind of weird and creepy. And so I was like, "No, you don't know me." Blah blah blah. Like, gives some excuse. She leaves and she goes home and goes to sleep. This time she's falling asleep herself to downtown. She puts downtown on because in her dream the night before she heard Anna Taylor Joy singing it, and it was great and amazing. So she wanted to have like be able to hopefully mirror that kind of thing again, with her, with herself, and like yeah. Sandy's in a show. That's not the show that Sandy would like to be in. She's not the star. She is a backup singer to somebody else. And it seems to, they're wearing very little clothing in this. I don't know if that's just supposed to be the number or if it's supposed to be a more adult type of show that she's being put into, and she kind of feels a little bit duped. And to be fair, that's how Sandy acts. When we see her after this, she's not very happy about she's not happy about the show. She's not happy about being in the lead. She thought she did a really great job singing and stuff, so she feels she should be a lead and definitely not in this kind of thing. Jack's like, this is all what we need to do. Like, we all got to start somewhere, and so you got to start here. And then Jack introduces her to someone, and Sandy's clearly tired and a little annoyed and a little sad after the show because again she feels a little bit more defeated, because it's not exactly what she wanted. She thought being with Jack was going to get her a dream right away, and clearly she is not getting her dream right away. Jack, by introducing Sandy to this person, it is implied that this person wants to have sex with Sandy, and Sandy is now being pimped out by Jack. Not cool. It's pretty awful. It's like downright awful. And from this point on, Sandy's life kind of spins out of control. She ends up sleeping with that guy, having sex with that guy. You see you see money on the nightstand table. Taylor Joy is asleep as a gentleman comes out from the bathroom, and that's basically when Elle wakes up. And at this point, the worship of Sandy is over for Elle. She still has her hair dyed like Sandy, but she is no longer like dressing like Sandy. She's trying to be more like herself, or a little bit more of like who she was trying before taking over and being so obsessed with Sandy. Elle is spinning out of control. Her life is spinning out of control. She has a freak out at school. She tries to ruin her dress that like her teacher and stuff has been so like comforting towards, like, other than being like some of the material might be weird to like work with or anything, but she like tries to destroy her dress. Her teacher stops her. She's working, she they're after the school freak out, we see her working the bar. John comes up, orders a drink. They have the relationship that they build between Elle and John is beautiful, sweet, and adorable, and awesome. It's really great. It's fantastic. Because he's really just trying to get to know this girl that he likes. He likes how her drawings, like he thinks she's talented. Like he's attracted to her. It's great. Um, Elle takes, as she's like working the bar and gets John his drinks for his friends, she takes a call from her Graham's like, "What are you doing? It sounds loud." "Oh, I'm out with friends. I'm at a bar." "Oh, or at a pub." "Oh, that's great. That sounds great." And then Elle, at some point in the conversation, Elle just admits to her Graham, like, "I moved out of the dorm. I'm renting it. I'm trying to make some money. I'm actually working at the bar right now. I'm not necessarily out with friends. It's all been kind of hard." And she finally admits that, and you can tell that there's a little bit of relief in Elle's voice when she talks to her Graham and lets that off her chest, saying like, "This has been hard. This has been pretty difficult." Um, after the after the conversation with Gran, Gran asks if Elle had seen her mom again or anyone. Elle says no, she hasn't come with me. Gran reassures Elle that it's okay to ask for help if she needs to come back and live with Graham. Like, that's fine. Like, they can do that. As they're closing up, wow, that was a loud bang. As they're closing up the pub, the owner lets her know that the owner Carol says, like, you don't have to go home, but you can't sleep here. You got to sleep somebody else, someplace else where we're closing right now. So then they go. She goes home, and she sleeps. This time, Sandy's in a new bar. She's meeting a revolving door of different men. I'm pretty sure we see Nick Frost as one of those men, so shout out to his cameo. Love Nick Frost. And this is where we get another really interesting shot with like Sandy dancing, Anna Taylor-Joy dancing. Like, you can tell she's really starting to spin out of control. She seems to be drinking more, drugged in some kind of way, because the screen starts to blur, and like really all you kind of see is Anna Taylor-Joy in the center in this dance after being like kind of intercut with the revolving door of the different men that she's meeting. And Elle eventually starts, like, on her end, starts screaming and stops her from taking the hand of, like, screams, jumps through the glass, because like in all the meetings with the men, you see Anna Taylor-Joy sitting there in the booth, the man across the table, and then in the reflection here right by Anna Taylor-Joy, you see you see Elle looking in, and Thomasin Mackenzie's Elle looking in, and you see her break through the window and grab Sandy, saying like, "No, don't do this, you're better than this, like, you don't have to do this," and trying to make her like get out of that situation. Elle wakes up to see Sandy on her ceiling laying in a bed, and Elle looks down from the ceiling and sees these like Dementor gray no-faced ghost things, people, dudes, hovering about her bed. And it's really creepy, and it's really weird, and it's like it's jarring, to say the least. Because of this, Elle is late to school again, because it actually wasn't a real dream, or it wasn't actually real life. She was having like a dual dream in it, and she wakes up late again to school. John invites Elle out at the end of class, and without even asking what the invite is to or where John wants to take her, Elle's like, "Yes, I want to do anything but sleep and go home into my creepy house where I'm having horrible dreams now." They started out great, but they are now awful. And this is where things start to take a weird turn for Elle, because those gray ghosts and Sandy follow Elle to the bar that John takes her to with it's a Halloween party at a bar. Um, Both John and Elle are already in black, as John says. He's like, I'm just going to put on some white face paint and some black rings around my eyes, and I'm going to be a ghost. You're already in black. We can match, and we can do the same thing. So Elle does that. They're matching ghosts there. This bar seems kind of intense. A lot of strobe lights. So I don't know if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff. Be careful. But a lot of strobe lights going on. It was like really great, and again, they give you really great, excellent cinematography. The shots are beautiful in this scene as well, and that's why I mentioned the strobe lights, because they're like great action shots that are backlit like perfectly with these like strobe lights, and it's wild. It's wild. It's so good. Um, and uh, it's all really great. Jocasta gives John and Elle a drink. Elle sees Sandy and the Great Ghosts, like I said, and she freaks out at the bar now. So now she's had a couple of freakouts at school. Now it's starting to happen even before she goes to bed now. Um, and so she freaks out. They leave the bar, and uh, they decide to go back to Elle's and break her rule, break Mrs. Collins' rule, have a boy there after 8 p.m. Um, and so they go back there. And while they're at Elle's is where Elle has another freak out. She starts seeing Sandy get killed on the ceiling. And we also get the initial, like, image that we saw from Thomas and Mackenzie that was released, it feels like 5 years ago now. When they, one of the first things probably that they shot. um, but yeah, we get that shot in here. Elle freaks out as John and her are getting intimate. Nothing nefarious that John does. It's clear, like Elle's seeing Sandy get murdered, and she's seeing these weird gray, no face dementor people. They don't have noses or anything. They got like sunken in eye sockets and stuff. Like, they're weird looking. Very, very unsettling. And so we see this. Miss Collins comes running up the stairs. John gets chased out of the room. Miss Collins finally calms down Elle, and it's like, we'll talk about this in the morning. Um, and when they talk about it in the morning, Elle asks if anyone was killed in her room. And Miss Collins says there was somebody has been killed in every room, on every corner, in every building, on every street throughout the entire city of London. Um, and she says, if I would have caught him, I would have killed John last night too. It's interesting. We get the next morning at school, and there's that awkwardness with John because they were getting intimate. Then he gets chased out by Miss Collins. Elle's freaking out. And Jocasta even calls out the awkwardness between Elle and John in class, like, ooh, what happened there? Um, and Elle sees the ghosts again. She sees gray ghosts now again in her classroom. And she freaks out. She runs through the town, runs away, and goes into the police station and talks to the police to report Sandy's murder, saying that I know who did it. I believe I know who killed this woman, Sandy. And while she's at the police station, the Elle doesn't know Sandy's last name. The male cop really doesn't believe her. We even see the male cop like laughing it off in the bathroom to a bunch of other cops. The female cop that is there in the not interrogation, but in the interview with Elle, taking her story, says, like, I will follow up to the best of my ability, but I can't guarantee anything, especially without you having a last name for the woman, Sandy. So we just don't know. I don't know, like, how much we'll be able to do or how much we'll be able to help. Which is very open and honest. The male cop in the interrogation does ask Elle about mental health, like, how's your mental health? Do you have a history of mental illness? And Elle's like, what does that have to do with anything about this? And, like, it's true. Elle seems to be losing it a little bit, but she's convinced. So, you don't know. They leave the police station, or Elle leaves the police station, and this is where I would call it the end of, like, Act 2 and the start of Act 3. Elle is at the library now. John meets up with her, apologizes, and is like, I don't know what happened last night or earlier today or whatever, but whatever I did, I'm sorry, and I would like to do whatever I can to make this right and make this up to you, because I apologize. I am sorry. And Elle stops him and is like, don't worry, you did nothing wrong. That I'm going through something. I need to deal with it, and I need your help right now. So Elle enlists John's help to look for missing persons or murders or possible murders of women during the 1960s in their town, to try and figure out if she can find a last name for Sandy. And a lot of what she found was actually just missing men, like businessmen and stuff, that were just like randomly gone or disappeared or whatever, not really found or heard from again. And then Elle sees Sandy outside walking by. She gets chased through the library by the gray ghost, almost stabbing Jocasta. John runs after Jocasta, trying to cover for Elle. Elle runs back to the window, sees Sandy is still like near the library, runs out and starts running after Sandy. As she's chasing after Sandy, she catches Terrence Stamp. Like, she sees Terrence Stamp's character walking to the Toucan, and she decides to follow him there, because we come to find out, once they get inside the bar, the bar owners are like, you're late for your shift, I've been trying to cover you, you've got a customer downstairs, blah blah blah. Elle records the conversation that she has with Terrence Stamp down here, and he accuses him of being Sandy's killer. He says, I didn't kill Sandy. I think I know who she is. But Sandy brought a lot of her own problems onto herself, and I don't like this line of questioning, so I'm leaving. And he leaves, gets hit by a car, and we find out through Carol, the bar owner, that man's name, Terrence Stamp's name, is Lindsay. He's a former cop. He was one of the men that Sandy met with, and he was actually the one man that told Sandy to get out of this line of work and change her life and try and do something different. So that was interesting, because up until this point, like, Elle really believed that Terrence Stamp was Jack. It was Matt Smith's character from the past. Turns out he's not. He was Lindsay. He was the cop that talked with Anna Taylor-Joy. Anna Taylor-Joy says, I think you're a copper, to him, and it's that guy. and the revolving men that she talks with. Um, so after this, Elle after the car crash, Elle gets a call from her gran. She lays it all on the table for her gran, letting her know everything's spinning out of control. She's in over her head. She's having too much trouble, and then John shows up. John John shows up after taking care of whatever he needed to with Jocasta at the library, and that almost stabbing. Elle and John go back to the apartment. Elle decides that she needs to take everything out of the apartment and go to take everything out of the apartment and go and go live someplace else. Go back with her Graham. Can't live in this house anymore. She's hoping that Miss Collins might let her have a little bit more of her deposit money back, or might let her keep some of her deposit money, so that she has some pocket change, because she definitely doesn't have anything from the pub or anything like that. While they're parked, Elle says, "If I'm not back in 15 minutes, come in and check on me. Otherwise, I'll be fine and I'll be able to go." And with that, with Elle saying, "Hey, double check this. I want to make sure, or 15 minutes, come get me." So she goes in, talks to Miss Collins, Dame Diana Rigg, and Dame Diana Rigg is like, "So, you talked to the cops today. They came asking about you. Do you want some tea? Let's talk about, all of this." So they sit down, they have tea. Elle starts to drink the tea. Elle also asks Miss Collins if a woman named Sandy died in that room. Miss Collins admits that a young Sandy died in that room, and we find out that Miss Collins is actually Sandy. She is Sandy. Dame Diana Rigg was Sandy. What a twist. They allude to it throughout. Throughout before this point, both Elle is looking for an apartment on, I believe she says Goody Place or Goody Street. And then Anna Taylor Joy, in one of the flashbacks in 1960, says that Jack needs to drop her off at 8 Good Street. So we have those two times, and then we actually see Alexandra Collins on the mail that Elle grabs off the table, because Miss Collins says, "Hey, there's, I took a letter by accident, or they put a letter in my box for you. It's over there." This is wild. It's insane. And so Miss Collins says, "Yes, a young Sandy died up there, an innocent Sandy died up there, but I did not die up there." Miss Collins admits that what Elle had been seeing was true to a point, because Miss Collins, Sandy Collins, admits to killing Jack and all of those men that she was supposed to sleep with. That she killed them all. And then we get quick cuts of her burying, or not even burying, putting the body parts into the walls and floors of the apartment building. So that's why she bought it. She probably bought it for pennies on the dollar because it smelled so bad. And then she probably figured out a way to cover up the smell, or maybe even remove some of the bodies by maybe burning them. I don't know. And so she says that she couldn't sell because of all the memories of the men that she killed. Elle says she's sorry about bringing the cops here, won't tell anyone about this. And Sandy Collins says, "I know you won't tell anyone about this." And I was like, "Great, I'm glad I won't." And Sandy Collins is like, no, I know, and looks down at the T. I know you won't. Hold the phones here. Dame Diana Rigg. Sandy Collins just poisoned Elle. Whoa. Wow. And she's dying. She's dying now. As we get this bomb dropped on us, we hear a knock at the door. Jack is here. Not Jack. John is here. 15-minute checkup. John gets stabbed by Miss Collins as he and her tussle as Elle throws herself out of Miss Collins's room, knocking over an ashtray, starting a fire in the building. John is knocked out on the floor during the scruffle of Miss Collins and Elle kind of fighting, knocking the knife away. Elle runs upstairs knowing that she can make emergency calls only from the phone in her room. Miss Collins goes after the knife and then follows Elle up the stairs. Oh, man. Elle tries to call, but the Grey Ghosts stop her. The Grey Ghosts stop her and ask Elle to kill her. To kill Sandy Collins. And Elle, this is wild. But this also makes sense that the ghosts are still there because their bodies are there because she kept them there and hasn't, I'm not saying that she needs to let, being pimped out go, but she hasn't, that hasn't left her, so these spirits are still tortured by her being here, but they get their freedom when she goes. So then Elle goes after Miss Collins. She says they deserved it. Or, I'm sorry, Miss Collins goes after Elle, makes her way up the stairs as the fire is starting to catch the rest of the apartment there and the rest of the floor. Sandy's saying they deserved it, and I don't feel bad about it or anything. You can't, and Sandy's sitting on the bed as the bed is starting to catch fire. You can't save me, but you can still save the boy. So Elle runs downstairs, goes, grabs John, runs out the door as the fire takes the rest of the apartment and the apartment burns down. Then we get a flash forward a little bit. We get a black screen, and Elle is having her fashion show. She has her fashion show. She's got 3 different dresses worn by different models walking down the runway. In attendance is everyone from her class, the teacher, Jocasta. She also has John in attendance and her Graham. The that runway showing does really well, does great. She gets a round of applause. She goes into the back. She sees a mirror. In the mirror, she sees her mother. Then her Graham and John come in and congratulate her, a little bit more personally instead of just up there with the crowd of everybody else. And she then hears a noise from another mirror, and in that mirror she sees Sandy. And she walks over. So Elle is full of delight at this point. Let's be honest here. She saved her boyfriend. Her Graham still believes in her. She was able to accomplish and do her show and her fashion show and her runway and everything that she wanted to do. That's great. And this was all just excellent. I loved every single second of this movie. This was really great, but the best part is that at the end she sees Sandy now. Elle sees Sandy in the mirror, and she walks over and they do the finger touch again. And this whole movie was really great. I love this movie. If you have the opportunity to either see it in theaters, definitely see it in theaters. If you have the opportunity to rent it on Amazon or wherever you can. I love this movie. I think everybody should go out and watch it or see it however you can. Thank you for joining me on this Triple C Presents Movie Monday review of Last Night in Soho. I'm Jimmy Clark. You guys have a great day.